Victor, the Hong Kong media, the Hong Kong society, what do you feel there?
I think we're definitely moving online big time, and I think we can all sense it moving towards that direction. So corporations are spending more time, more resources, and gearing towards that. The only thing we don't see going up is online advertising costs. Corporations still have reservation and putting money in that area, but apart from that, everything is going online. I think.
And the same thing in Singapore, I guess, Daryl.
I think in terms of media, it's definitely it. I don't know about those in the room, but I'm going to suspect that if you have kids anywhere my age or younger, they're not reading papers and they're not watching the news. So, I mean, like for me, I don't read the papers. If something out there is newsworthy enough, somebody I know is going to pass it to me and say, I find it interesting, take a look. And that again comes back to the whole question about, bloggers, or people online being the new form of journalists and passing out information. I think it's definitely, maybe not yet, but it's going to take on more when people who are my age and younger start growing up and replacing, that demographic.
On the demographic, in terms of age, I have this slide that I reprinted for my presentation in my track earlier. That's trying to show sort of a generation gap on the internet, where you have Generation Y sort of leaving the savviness of how to use the internet, and Generation Z, or whatever we want to call them, the younger generation still was sort of getting even more savvy as they grow up and have sort of grown up with the internet from day one. Do you feel that the internet in some ways in the countries you live in have actually widened the generation gap between your parents' generation and yourselves? Daryl, for example, I know that your dad doesn't have a blog, does he?
No, my dad doesn't have a blog. But in a way, yes, there are going to be those, there are people who are going to always think that whatever model exists works. But I'm going to say that actually the generation gap can be shortened as well, because personally for me, something like a month and a half ago, my grandpa got on Facebook. And that was very interesting for both me and my sister to know that he's checking out what our pictures and our travels and everything. So it does help in a way, because like my sister's not in Singapore right now, so it helps people like my grandparents stay connected. So it does, to the people who are going to embrace it, it's going to close the gap. For those who don't, it's going to widen the gap.
Actually, what would you say? You actually have kids.
Yeah.
How are they different from you?
They spend more time online. They are tied to Facebook, YouTube, as any other kids would these days. But which is not a bad thing. You get all these kind of like different media types on it. But that's how it goes. Even my dad, although he just passed away 2 months ago, but at the age of 70-some, he's a true YouTube user.
Wow. It's a very savvy family you're from. Kenny, what about your parents and your older generation, the family?
Well, when I first started blogging, I've been receiving huge opposition about it, on it, because they think that I am exposing my private life for everyone and shaming myself. I think it takes a long time for them to start accepting what I'm doing, to start understand what I'm doing, before they say, hey, this is not such a bad thing after all. But I think, yeah, at first, when it first started out, the whole blogging boom started out about 2-3 years ago. When it first started out, there is a huge opposition from the Generation X and the baby boomers generation. But lately, especially after the Malaysian election, people start seeing the importance of blogs and starting to accept it as a good form of alternative media.
I mean, actually, your blog is very sort of, you might say that has created quite an uproar with some of the older generation and some of the other demographics in India. Do you feel like the generation gap almost getting wider now with this happening?
I don't get many emails from older readers. In fact, most of my emails from people my age.
Yeah.
And I know my parents read my blog, so...
Your parents are okay with you blogging?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of technologically challenged, so they know everything we found on the internet, but they don't know how to go about finding it. But then I'm also kind of a little bit challenged that way as well.
Right. Yeah. On the other hand, you also said, you mentioned before how obviously in rural areas in India there's very little internet access. In a sense, you might say that the internet has actually widened the economic gap as well, and the savoir gap between the rural areas and the city areas.
Yeah.
So actually,
I would say so.
It's kind of the opposite way what it should be going at the moment.
It does emphasize the difference between the rich and the poor in India. Well, the economically viable and the non-economically viable. But a lot of NGOs are working with putting computers into slums.
Right.
Which is good.
So the reason you're not getting a lot of feedback from older generations on your blog? Is that because you just don't think they access the internet?
I just don't think what I have to say would be interesting for them.
Okay, that's interesting. But at least you have tons of viewers and readers of your own age. We have a question also from our online audience, and that's on microblogging. Some of you mentioned Twitter earlier. Do you see microblogging, such as Twitter, etc., actually being an alternative and coming up against traditional blogging in the future? Do you see that your blogs are going to diminish, blogs like yours are going to diminish, and Twitter is going to take over? Kenny, you're shaking your head.
I mean, Twitter, I find it quite annoying, actually, because, like, I've been getting messages all day long people saying, "Hi, I'm going to this restaurant." Like, do I care? I don't care. I don't care where you are at this very moment. So, no, I don't think it will kill blogging anytime soon. It will complement it, but it will not kill it.
Do you have I've actually, Daryl, we sort of met through Twitter. What do you feel about Twitter?
I'm a very heavy Twitter user. Try and convert as many people as I can to get on it because I think it helps. I don't think it's going to replace blogs because you only got like 160, 140 characters to use. But I was just reading a book talking about joining the conversation online, and actually one of the US airlines, I cannot remember what it is now, I think it was Delta, they started up a Twitter account for a way to, keep in contact with their customers because, people in the US, they can Twitter from their handphones. I mean, we can too, but it costs. So they're sitting in the airport saying, "Damn it, I just missed my flight. Delta sucks, da-da-da-da-da." And, whoever it is behind the Delta account is replying them close to instantly saying, "I'm sorry, that happened. What can I do to make it better for you?" And I think that's, for me, from a company's point of view, from a business point of view, that's very important. And I don't think, well, if you think it's a fad, you can ignore it, but I don't think people should be ignoring blogs and microblogging as well.
A lot of interesting view from you guys. I wish we could keep this conversation going. We can certainly keep it going offline as this event goes to an end, but I'm being told we have 2 minutes, we've gone over our time by 2 minutes and counting, and I need to round this off. Could I invite everybody to give a big applause to our young bloggers today? And as a sign of our appreciation, if I can not drop these, I'd like to hand each of you a little present on behalf of IDC. Daryl, thank you very much for joining us. A big hand for Daryl. Victor, likewise, thank you to Victor. Kenny, thank you very much. Meenakshi, thank you very much for joining us so far away. That rounds off today's panel discussion, but obviously I'm sure that a lot of you have questions to ask these very intelligent guys here and Meenakshi as well. So please take them offline. You'll have opportunity to do that after we sign off the event here. So without further ado, I'll leave it over to Steve. Thank you.